Hi, good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Camille with 30 Day Singer. Today, we're going through some easy steps that you can take to learn and work on any song. I will be referencing two articles, so I want to put those links in the live chat. I will update the video description later, if I remember, with these links as well. So the first is a blog post I wrote for 30 Day Singer, how to choose and work on a song. And then the second is how to choose a good song for your voice type, considering range, registration, and style. So that is the second link I'm dropping. The third link I'm dropping, in case you have never done this before, is how to find your vocal range. So that is just a step by step. You're finding your lowest comfortable note, your highest comfortable note. And when you put those two together, you'll get your overall comfortable range. So let's say, for example, the lowest that I can sing is an A3. And maybe the highest I can sing is a C5. Ooh. I would say that my overall comfortable range is A3 to C5. Of course, that assumes that I can sing the pitches in between. So you can slide from low to high and make sure that there are no gaps in your range. There shouldn't be big gaps in your range, truly, unless there's vocal injury. Sometimes there are functional gaps where you have a hard time accessing the notes in the middle of your range. That's pretty common. Um, and the last link that I would like to put is the sheet music to Someone to Watch Over Me. That's going to be the example song that I use later. Um, I'll kind of go through some of those steps that we talk about together with that song as an example. The first 45 minutes of our lesson will be talking about these steps of song work, explaining, demonstrating, and the last 15 minutes are yours for Q&A. Of course, you can ask questions in the chat as we go along. So, first up, someone's asking, can you talk about how to make my voice look, or I'm guessing you mean sound similar to the voice in my head. And I'm glad you bring this up. This is a very common thing that we hear ourselves in a certain way internally. And then when we hear our voice on a recording, it sounds way different. And let me tell you why that is. Hopefully, it will help to explain things a little bit. When you're listening to your voice, like I'm hearing my voice in my head right now, and what I'm hearing is not only the vibrations in the air that, bounce on this wall in front of me and then come back to my ears. I am hearing that, but I'm also hearing internal vibration from my body. Your bones actually conduct sound, and you can actually feel your body vibrating with the sound that you make. If you put your hand on your chest cavity, sometimes I can feel vibration, ooh, almost as low as my belly. So, that vibration internally is also contributing to the sound that you hear. And the bones in your body are better at boosting those lower pitches. So that's the reason why you sound deeper, richer, more resonant. You think your voice is lower than it actually is. And when you hear your voice on a recording, you think, who is that little kid talking? Why is my voice so nasal and annoying? And how is anyone friends with me? And that's a very, very common feeling to have. Almost every singer thinks that about their own voice. I've heard a few singers say their voice sounds deeper on a recording, but in general, people think they sound high pitched and bright and nasal and annoying. Um, so, how to make the voice in your head, or how to make your voice in real life sound more like the voice in your head? I would say the first step is making peace with the fact that those internal sounds are a little different than your voice actually sounds in the air. Um, get used to the voice that you hear on a recording. So you don't need to have a fancy mic setup to do that. You can just sing into your phone. The ideal would be that you're singing at a nice medium volume and that the phone is not really, really close to your mouth because it might start to distort. Also, understand that the microphone on your phone or especially on your laptop is not the best quality. So you're not getting the most amazing picture of what your voice is, but this might be a good thing to consider. Ask someone who knows you really well. Ask, like, a sibling or parent or a close friend to listen to your voice in real life and then to listen to your voice on, say, a phone recording and ask them how they differ. Ask them, do these sound the same to you? Or in real life, do I sound different? And hopefully their description can help you. If they tell you, oh yeah, your voice on the phone is way higher, your voice in real life is deeper and more resonant, then you can breathe a sigh of relief if that's something that you care about. But um, truly, to make changes to our sound, we have to listen to ourselves. And it's debatable whether a recording on a bad microphone is better than the sound inside your head. Um, that's debatable, but if you do have a friend or someone with a higher quality mic, it's worth going and listening to yourself. Oh, something else that you can do? I'm not sure if they're doing this during COVID times, but if you go into Ultimate no, 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 not Ultimate Guitar, Guitar Center, it's a chain music store, and you can go into Guitar Center and do what they call a mic shootout, or at the very least, you can try out a few different mics. You can listen to the recording of yourself back, or you might have headphones on as you're singing, and those headphones will be the feed from the mic, that you're listening to live. So that could be a really cool thing for you to do without the commitment of purchasing an expensive mic. You can go into a music store. I mentioned Guitar Center because it's a chain and I assume there are a lot of them. But yeah, any music store, you could ask them, "Hey, can I just hear kind of a demo of my voice on this microphone? I want to hear what my voice sounds like on a good mic, and maybe eventually I want to purchase a higher quality mic." Um, Okay, so jumping into song work, and Cal is saying they're recovering from being sick and now feeling confident. I'm so glad. And Grand Solar Minimum for Reals is saying, "Can you sing a low C today?" I doubt it. I'm still also recovering from being sick, but that low C is a special treat. Um, okay, so open up that first link for me. That's the how to choose and work on a song. So, step one is choosing a song that fits your voice and consider changing keys if it's too high or too low. Really, the simplest way to choose a song that fits your voice is just to sing along with it. If it feels comfortable and it sounds reasonably good to you, it's a good fit. You don't need to overthink it. If you want to get specific with things, the way that you can go about that is determining your vocal range. Again, you can walk through the steps in that one article, find am I a soprano, a mezzo, an alto, a baritone, a tenor, or a bass? And then you can look up songs that fall within that vocal range. Um, the issue with that the issue with that is that every singer is different. My voice does not just fit within one range. I consider myself sometimes an alto, sometimes a mezzo, depending on the genre. So don't expect for your voice to fit perfectly in one vocal range box. However, if you feel totally lost and you just can never find songs that feel good for your voice, then I think determining your vocal range can be helpful for you. Because let's say you have a relatively low voice and you're always singing along with singers like Ed Sheeran or trying to sing songs by Shawn Mendes, these singers with higher voices, Bruno Mars. Okay, if you determine, "Oh, wow, my voice is really comfortable in the bass or the baritone range," then that can give you a list of singers to look for songs by. You can say, "Oh, wow, hey, I can sing anything that Leonard Cohen sings. I can sing anything Johnny Cash sings." And now I've opened up this, whole bunch of repertoire, that I can sing easily. So that can be good if you find yourself in that boat of just never being able to sing, or find easy songs for you to sing. Okay, so once you found a song, let's say you found a song and it's almost right, but it's a little bit high or a little bit low. In that case, my first plan of attack is just going to YouTube and searching. For example, I'm working on Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo with a student right now, and it was a little bit too high for her. So we just went to YouTube and we searched Driver's License lower key. and we found one in a comfortably low key. I think the original is in the key of B flat. I got my driver's license. And we found one in the key of B. I got my driver's license. So now the high note is a B instead of a D. And that makes a really big difference. So that's first plan of attack. If it's a less well known song and you cannot find a different key for it, then what I would do is change the pitch of the karaoke track myself. A really popular app that people use is called AnyTune. I'm just going to write that in the chat. AnyTune app for changing pitch and speed of a karaoke track. So people really like that. I believe there is a free version. They probably have a pro or a plus version, but there is a free version you can get. Okay. Um, George is asking if I'm based in San Diego, and yes, I am. I go to LA for work sometimes, but I live in San Diego right now. Um, okay, so let's say you have chosen the song and maybe you've fiddled around with the key a little bit and now you've put it into an easy spot for your voice. I am such a fan of putting songs in an easier key for you to sing. Most singers don't really like that. They wanna sing it in the original key. And my thought on that is if you are singing this, for a specific purpose, like let's say you are going to a karaoke bar and they don't have multiple key options. Usually they don't, right? They're just gonna have the original key. Maybe they'll have different options, but in my experience, you can't bank on that. So if you are singing a song for karaoke, or let's say you were cast in a musical and you are singing songs from that musical, you will not have flexibility with the key. You're going to have to sing those songs in the original key. Um, oh, awesome. So someone is saying that Transpose is also a cool extension for Chrome browsers. That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So, anyways, unless if you're just singing a song or just learning a song for vocal development and fun, then I say put it in the key that's gonna be most easy for you to sing, and then over time, if you want to, you can start to raise the key back up. So let's say that student I mentioned is working on driver's license and they're comfortable in the key of G, but they really want to be able to sing it in the original key. What I would do then is sing it in the key of G, get it comfy, then move it up to the key of A flat using any tune or that Chrome extension, and then move it to A, and then move it to B flat. Range extension and getting comfortable in a new range for your voice does take time, so there's really no point in rushing it. Anyways, that could be a path for you. All right, so say we've put the song in a comfortable key or we don't have control over the key. The next step is learning the melody by rote. That just means you're listening and you're repeating what you hear. If I am on a time crunch, then I will listen to a song literally one phrase at a time or one line at a time, and I'll make notes on that melody. So if something unexpected happened in the melody, I will write down specifically. I use solfege syllables, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But you could use numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or you could just kind of draw out symbols for yourself, like an arrow up or a flat line if there are multiple pitches or syllables that are on the same pitch. Um, Write out notes that make sense for yourself because you will forget. You absolutely will forget. And if you are on a time crunch, then just making those notes can be a huge time saver overall. If I have more time and I'm learning a song more casually, then sure, I'm just going to listen to it from start to finish several times. That's not the most efficient way because oftentimes there are repeats in songs. So you can think about it. It's a little bit of a waste of time if every chorus is the same and you're just using the time listening to that same chorus that you already know probably by the second time you hear the song. So you might skip around and focus specifically on the different areas, the bridge, for example, or the verses, which usually will vary a little bit. George is asking if I have private and or group sessions. Oh, that is so cool. A fellow San Diegan. So George, I do teach privately. I teach group lessons on my Patreon. I can include those links for you in the chat shortly, but at the moment, I'm not actually teaching in person. I've stayed online. I've actually been online exclusively since beginning of 2019 for other reasons, but since COVID, I've just been online. But yeah, I will include those links for you. Okay, so here are a few steps that you can follow with any song. Once you have learned the melody by rote, first step is actually to breathe through the song. I learned this from a classical teacher that I had in college, and this for me, it it's more like preventing issues before they even start. So, I'm going to just look up the beginning of Someone to Watch Over Me. So, actually, I'll go to the verse. So, you're probably familiar with this. It goes, "There's a somebody I'm longing to see." Okay, you might be familiar with Ella Fitzgerald's version, and it just recently entered the public domain, which I'm so happy about, and that's why I'm using it today. So, my first step, once I'm familiar with that melody and I've listened to it, I'm going to breathe through this song, meaning I'm going to exhale on an S, an SH, a CH, so it would look like this. Or sh 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 sh. That way, I'm getting the rhythm in my body and I'm planning my breaths without fatiguing my voice at all. And it's such a great tool because again, you're preventing problems. You're preventing those like long phrases where you run out of breath. Before they ever happen. This is also the step in your learning process where you can write in your breaths. So if you are looking at this with me, if you're looking at, I'll drop the link again just so you don't have to scroll. If you're looking at that with me, you see there's a somebody I'm longing to see. There's my first breath after that. I hope that he turns out to be. I could sing, "I hope that he turns out to be," and take no breath there, or I could kind of pause. "I hope that he turns out to be." Whichever choice I make, I want it to make sense. I think personally, it makes more sense to not cut that phrase in half because it's a sentence. I hope that he turns out to be. You know, if I was just speaking that phrase, I would not say, "I hope that he turns out to be," right? If you need to breathe, you can. Um, Anyways, so breathe through the entire song, write in your breaths. And the way that singers do that is they either write a little check mark or an apostrophe above the line. Sometimes your piece of music will have breaths written in for you. Typically, you're going to see that more in choral music, where the composer or the arranger wants to put those breaths in so the entire choir is on the same page. For a solo, you have more creativity and flexibility with where you breathe. So the question is then, where does it make sense to breathe, both musically and lyrically? It's kind of the mark of an inexperienced singer to breathe somewhere that it doesn't make lyrical sense to breathe. So if I go, "I'm a little lamb who's lost in the woods," it doesn't make sense to breathe there. I need to connect that phrase. I could go, "I'm a little lamb who's lost in the woods." I could pause there and it would make a little bit more sense. But ideally, I'm saying that full sentence, "I'm a little lamb who's lost in the woods," without breaking it up with this breath in the middle. Okay, next step. Now that we've breathed through the song, next step is to drop the lyrics. Well, we haven't we haven't sung the lyrics yet. Um, and sing on a syllable that's going to be easy for you to sing. Actually, let me backtrack. The next step could be singing on something semi occluded or singing your melody through a straw. So, semi occluded sounds, examples would be a hum, a lip trill, a Z sound, a V sound, or singing through a straw. And let me like roll back here because I actually do have a straw with water for once. So let me grab that. Okay, this is not fancy at all. This is just a regular sized drinking straw, a cup of water from a local Thai place, and water not too far up the glass. So this is another great semi-closed exercise, especially for people who struggle with the lip trill or just who don't like those other SOVTs. So what you do is you submerge that straw in water and then you're singing through it. You're going basically singing an ooh, but through the straw. And what I want is bubbles and sound at the same time. This feels so good on the voice. Most people will say this feels like a vocal massage. It's just so relaxing, and it's nearly impossible to hurt yourself singing on these semi-closed sounds, especially the straw and lip trill. So again, we're finding ways to practice that are not fatiguing to the voice. So we sing or exhale on a hiss or an SH, doesn't use phonation at all. We're just using air. Second, we sing the melody on something semi closed. So I would literally sing the entire thing. The reason the straw is so nice, one reason is because it requires you to move your air steadily and consistently. You can't hold your air and continue to make sound through the straw. Um, it also doesn't take a lot of air in the grand scheme of things. So you might find you don't have to take as big of breaths. Your vocal folds are working more efficiently with the straw. It helps your vocal folds line up. And it's also proven to take down swelling. So if you are recovering from being sick, or if your voice just is a little bit, a little bit sore today, maybe you overdid it yesterday, singing through the straw is incredible for you. And I mean, this is close to free. You don't need to buy anything fancy. Just grab a regular sized drinking straw, a cup of water about, maybe a quarter or a third of the way filled up, and sing into that and see how your voice feels afterward. Um, okay, then the next step, after we have breathed through the song and we've sung it on something semi-closed, is to sing on a syllable. Your choice of syllable depends on the sound that you want and the warm up sounds that get your voice into a specific condition. Let me explain. If I want a light sound, I'm going to sing on something like doo 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 or wee wee wee. Doo 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 doo. If I want a heavier sound, I might use more open vowels like ba 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 or na 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 na. Okay? So it depends on the song you're singing. For me, this song, there's no need to belt it. It's light and floaty and easy throughout. So I would choose something like doo 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 or noo noo noo. And again, I am singing through the entire song on that syllable. I use this illustration quite a lot. I was in choir one time and we were singing Mozart's Requiem. We did not add the lyrics for months. We sang on, you know, we were singing the melody. That was the Kyrie eleison, I think, on doo 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 or do do do, depending on what kind of sound we wanted. And then we put the lyrics on at the very end. Now, for a solo song, I wouldn't say sing on a syllable for months, but I would say maybe the first week that you're learning a song, especially if it's a difficult one, spend most of your time breathing semi occluded and on that syllable, particularly if it's a difficult song for you to sing and if you need the support of that warm up syllable. Um, how you find out, do I need that support or not, is can you make the kind of sounds that you want to be making on the lyrics? If the answer is no, you need the warm up syllable. Can you make the kind of sounds that you want to make on the warm up syllable? If the answer is yes, keep using it until that starts to feel a little bit more like muscle memory, if you will. The next step, this is where things get a little bit complex and where a teacher can help you out, but I do have a resource as well to help you. The next step is putting the lyrics back on and doing vowel or consonant modifications as needed. So, let me see if I can find a quick example of that. Okay, the very first line. Let's say I really liked my sound on do 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 do. Let me exaggerate what might happen if I am not careful and not modifying my vowels. I might go, there's a somebody. Hear how that E vowel really sticks out? It's starting to pull a little bit. It sounds kind of nasal and thin. Again, I'll demonstrate. There's a somebody. Okay. Or maybe my voice cracks there. I go, there's a somebody. And I'm not intending that to happen. I'll go back to do, 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 do. And now I noticed my voice naturally on that do made a switch at buddy. Do, 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 do. There's a somebody. Now, if I let my voice make that same register shift when I return to the lyrics, the sound is much smoother. Let's see what happens if I make that shift on the word or on the E of somebody. There's a somebody. That's also an option. So I didn't really necessarily need to change the vowel of that E, but another option would be altering the vowel. There's a somebody, buddy, instead of buddy. E, E. It's to some of you that looks really obvious. To some of you, you think, what is the difference? That you're still saying an E vowel. Vowel modification is like the nitty gritty of fine tuning your singing. And you do get used to hearing those distinctions between E and E, E, E. But yeah, at the beginning, it can be kind of tricky. I do have a resource, though, I want to grab for you. It is a beginner's guide to vowel modification. Right. So they can get you started just understanding general vowel types, what is good for what. Um, okay, next steps. So we've sung the melody, we breathed through it, an SOVT, an easy syllable, and now we're at the troubleshooting phase. So my steps for troubleshooting from this article are determine the issue. You've got to know what's going on. Is my voice cracking? Am I getting shouty? Am I getting breathy? Okay. Uh, think of a warm up syllable that helps you with that specific issue. And that's tricky, right? If you're a newer singer, you might not know exactly what warm-ups help for what. But say you've been singing for a little bit and let's say you have the issue that, you're getting breathy at a certain point. Think, are there any warm-up syllables I know of that help me get a strong, clear sound? One that comes to mind for me would be singing on something like bub or gig or even the word rang. So let's say I was going, there's a somebody I'm longing, and I'm getting really breathy and weak there. I might then go, okay, warm up syllable. Let me try bub. Bub, 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 bub. Nice. That worked for me. So I can just sing on bub. I'm going to try to keep that same feeling when I now go back to the lyrics. Bub, 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 bub. There's a somebody I'm. That's a really important spot. Okay, my voice could go, there's a somebody I'm, and kind of get light and breathy there. Singing on the bub, 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 bub. gives me a really clean start on the b sound. So how I'm recreating that with the lyrics is instead of saying I'm saying I'm. I'm with a clean, what we call a glottal onset. You can feel this for yourself if you say the word apple. You're probably not going apple. You're going apple. Or say uh-oh, uh-oh. And you can actually feel and hear a little bit more clearly there your vocal folds closing at the very beginning of the uh and between the and the o. There's a stop. We call that a glottal stop. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Okay, so I'm using that on the word I'm to have a clean start instead of I'm. Sorry, I kind of changed keys there. There's a somebody I'm glottal start. That gives me, clean tone from the beginning. Okay, so determine the issue. Think of a warm up syllable that helps you. Sing the melody on that syllable and see if it's easier. If not, try a different syllable or a different consonant vowel combination. Add the lyrics back in. If necessary, modify the vowels or the consonants to make your job easier. What I just did there, instead of saying I said I'm. I actually wouldn't really call that a vowel modification, even though it is a vowel. I would just call that a different choice of onset. A vowel modification is more where we're changing the shape of the vowel. So the first example I gave was the word somebody. There's a somebody, or there's a somebody. Eh. Okay. Consonants as well sometimes can cause troubles. Let me see if I can find a quick example of that. Mm, Someone who watch over me. I'm gonna keep going. I'm a little lamb. There, I would have to do something. I'm a little lamb who's lost in the wood. I know I could always be good to one who'll watch over me. So far, no consonants are making my life that difficult. Here's one that might. Okay, in the bridge, although he may not be the man some girls think of as handsome. No, that still wasn't hard. To my heart he'll carry the key. I'm really trying to find one that is a bummer to sing, but I guess this song is just written really well. Here's an example of one that might be an issue, though. Consonants that have a lot of airflow, like an H sound. Him, won't you tell him? Your voice might go a little bit light there. Won't you tell him? So the way that you can modify that consonant is to eliminate some of the H breathiness or aspiration. And you could say, tell him, won't you tell him? And there I'm still saying tell him, but with less H. Won't you tell him, please? And now I have a stronger sound than if I went, won't you tell him, please? Make sense? The principle here is your vocal folds they're doing a lot. They're working hard to vibrate and to keep vibrating. And then when you introduce a consonant with like a puff of air, like a p or a s or sh, anything like that, what you're doing is you're kind of interrupting that nice clean vibration that the vocal folds have. So the solution is swap out that consonant, that unvoiced consonant. Unvoiced means you're not making sound with your vocal folds. So f, sh, th, s, all of that. I'm not making sound with my vocal folds. It's just, shaping my vocal tract in a different way and moving that air. So The voiced consonants, the alternatives would be instead of an F sound, for example, you're adding your vocal folds. V, v. Same mouth shape. V. You're just adding some phonation. So the example there would be instead of singing follow. Is that the right pitch? Yeah. Follow my lead. If you needed to, you could add a little bit of V sound. Follow my lead. And that gave me a stronger sound from the start. Oh, sorry, George. Sorry, George. So here's where you can get all information for all types of lessons with me. Here you go. I got carried away. So there are different options. There's a private lesson option, um, Patreon option, and then, lots of free stuff if you're on TikTok. I'm on there most days and have another YouTube channel as well. So other free options exist. Okay, so we've troubleshooted. I do have a video to share with you on this whole voiced to unvoiced consonant thing if you want. It's a short lesson, but it demonstrates a few more examples of that. This really comes into play more when you are singing strongly, say you're belting and your voice is cracking at the start of a word with an unvoiced consonant. Okay. So check that lesson out. It is under 5 minutes and helps to explain that a little bit more. Okay. Last step, I think, or one of the last steps would be stylization. And I say in that article that singing well is about more than just singing the right notes. It's about style, emotion, and making a song your own. A good place to start is to analyze the style of both the original artists and singers who've covered the song that you're learning. So, some elements of style would be phrasing. How am I breaking up those phrases? For example, am I going, I hope that he turns out to be? Or am I singing, I hope that he turns out to be? Another stylistic element, not so much that I would use in this song, but in other pop songs would be vocal fry. That's the kind of creaky sound. Okay. So if this was a pop song, instead of going, uh, what's the first line of the song? There's a somebody, there's a some. It feels so terrible to do that, but I could add some vocal fry. And when I say it feels terrible, it doesn't hurt. It just feels stylistically wrong because Ella Fitzgerald would never. Another stylistic element would be an intentionally airy or breathy tone. So if I want something to be really light, a la Billie Eilish, I can use that airy or breathy tone on purpose. Another stylistic element that we actually already covered was a glottal onset. So using I instead of I. Your vibrato usage. Oh my goodness, that's a big one, especially if you're singing a style like pop or jazz. Your vibrato is a stylistic effect. It's not just something that you use constantly. Notice how that would sound if I went, there's a somebody I'm longing to see. Now it sounds like I'm a classical singer or an old school, like golden age musical theater singer. It doesn't sound like I'm singing jazz. There's a somebody I'm longing to see. Jazz does incorporate vibrato for sure, but it's not used constantly. Abrupt register shifts a la a pop flip or a falsetto flip. So that's where you're letting your voice go. For example, oh, oh. You're letting it, in other words, yodel. And grand solar minimum, I will get to those questions so soon. Um, Vowel modifications I have under that stylistic elements heading. Vowel modifications are sometimes done for ease of singing and for registration. So it's not always a stylistic choice to modify a vowel, but sometimes it can be. We can all probably think of singers who use the, indie voice or sing in cursive certainly a lot of those vowel modifications are they're stylistic choices. So, instead of singing "Caught a vibe," we're going "Caught a vibe." Maybe overdid it there, but that's just an example where it's not necessarily easier to sing, it's just, um, produces a different tone. Okay. Along with that, accent. You might sing a song, for example, a country song that just wouldn't sound quite right if you didn't give it a little bit of that country twang or southern accent. Another example of stylistic elements we might add are sliding or scooping up to different pitches, falling off of pitches. Um, so you can make these choices either spur of the moment as you're singing. If you're just feeling it, you can go for those different stylistic elements. Some singers choose to be specific with what they're going to do and when they're going to do it, and they make those notes on their lyric sheet. If you're a newer singer and if you don't trust yourself to make those choices in the moment, I would highly recommend that. Mark on your lyrics sheet, oh, here's where I'm doing that pop flip, or start with vocal fry. That can help you avoid last minute like confusion or freakouts. So, the last step in this process is polishing your performance, getting performance ready. Even if that performance is just for yourself and you're recording yourself, I still think that's really valuable and useful for you to do. Of course, the end result could be singing for other people. And a really easy step to work toward that would be recording yourself and then sharing that recording with a friend or a family member. That can get you used to just the idea of other people hearing your voice if you're not ready to sing for them live. Okay, so now grand solar minimum. Any ideas for how to find how low you can go to the point where it doesn't come out anymore? And same with high. And any idea to add low and high notes beyond that point. Of course. So, my favorite way to get to your lowest note is to actually roll from one pitch to the next. So, for example, I'm going to start on what feels like a comfy note for me. That's a G3. And for this, I'm just going to use a hum and I'm going to let my voice roll down one half step lower. It's okay if you are not quite familiar with pitch letter names. What you could do is just keep doing this with the help of a chromatic tuner until the sound stops. What's more likely that's going to happen though is you're going to just drop into your vocal fry register. So, now I'm at F sharp. Mm, mm, and I'm about at the point where no sound is going to come out. And actually, here's what's more likely to happen. Not that no sound is going to come out, but that I'm just going to be sharp because I can't go that low. No, I'm disappearing. um, and then same thing for high. How I approach the highest pitches though is not by just sitting on that note. My favorite exercise to take students through is to go like this. To go woo 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 or wee wee wee. Really, really light. You could also sing through a straw for either of these. Honestly, I mean, that could be a better way is just slide as low as you possibly can on the straw, um, and as high as you can, but I find that for high notes, people just start freaking out, you know? They start tensing up and constricting, so using a really playful sound, not making it a sung sound, to me, that helps quite a lot. So I just take the student as high as they can on "wee, wee, wee," or "woo, woo, woo," something like that. I encourage them to stay relaxed, to keep it playful, and to think about this as just making sound. "Woo, woo, woo." We're not going, "Oh." No, we're not singing. Wee, wee, wee. Wee, wee, wee. And this hand movement as well is just helping me. Wee, wee, wee. It's helping me stay really light and free. Okay. So you can walk around the room. You can, be swinging your arms from side to side. Wee, wee, wee. Wee, wee, wee. and you just keep going until no sound comes out. Wee, wee, wee! Wee, wee, wee! Okay, probably no sound would come out if I kept going. Range extension, we actually did an entire lesson on range extension. I think that was last week. So I would just go ahead and watch that. That'll be a more in-depth look at range extension, but essentially, one of the principles is finding the sound that's easiest for your voice in that mode that you're singing in and using that sound. Not pushing a lot of volume or air, because typically our lowest pitches and our highest pitches are not going to be very loud or very intense. Um, yeah, essentially that's it. I am a fan of stretching your voice beyond its comfortable point, and I'm using the word comfortable with quotes because I don't want you pushing your voice to the point of pain ever. But what I demonstrated earlier. I'm comfortable on that G, F, and then the E and the E flat are not great today. Typically those are a little bit more solid, but I still will try to let my voice go lower than that, because once I extend past those lowest actual notes that I can make noise on, my low notes become easier and sound better. Because if you think about it, I've already stretched past them. So now they don't feel like my hard limit. If that makes sense. Eunice, give me more information. What made my voice mess up last Sunday on stage? Tell me what happened. How do I access my mix? Okay, so we have done exercises or full lessons on mix, but one really quick and easy way to find and feel what mixed voice feels like is really silly. I'm gonna have you stick your tongue out, and I'm gonna do this in a couple different ranges. So just, yeah, just to see. So I'm gonna start you right here. You're gonna stick your tongue out and make a really bright nasal kind of sounding tongue out of the mouth. Don't be like shy and go that won't work. Okay, so you're gonna go okay, if you are a lower voice, this might be taking you into your mix. If you're a higher voice, try it around here. My voice is not really holding together too much, but using that really, really bratty sound can help you find the brightness that mix has. Start in chest voice if you can. Or depending on your voice's comfy range. Okay, that's just a very, very quick, like, kind of a novelty exercise. I would go watch any live lesson that we've done on mixed voice specifically, because that will be a more in-depth answer. Essentially, you're almost always doing some sort of a mix, if you will. Mix just means that we're singing with some balance or blend of our chest function or speaking voice and our head function, woo, or falsetto, that higher, lighter sound that we make. So you're almost always technically mixing, but we focus in specifically on a chest dominant mix for most singers, kind of as a way of extending the notes that they can sing with some chest voice quality. Okay? So that range for low voice singers typically starts around E flat 4 to A flat 4. For higher voice singers like me, A flat 4 is where we start getting into that chesty mix, to D flat 4 or D4, or sorry, D flat 5 or D5. Um, so if you're, like, confused and being like, "Okay, if everything is mix, then what is mix?" Um, that's really the range in which you have to be singing with a mix, um, to avoid just shouting in your chest voice or flipping into that light head voice sound. Um, Eunice is saying, "I went too high and my throat hurt a little bit." So, Eunice, I would say, however high you're going to sing in your performance or your church service, whatever it was, um, be sure that you are warming up your voice past that point prior to getting on stage. So, let's say I'm singing and the highest note I have to sing is this D5. I want my warm up to go well beyond that so that that D5 feels comfortable and feels easy. If I've already sung E's and F's and G's that morning, then or afternoon, whenever the performance was, um, then that D5 is going to feel way better and easier for me, and I won't tense up and risk kind of hurting myself. Um, Jordan is asking, what song do you prefer to sing for a warm up? It's a good question, and I honestly don't have a great answer for that. I I stick with warm up exercises for a true warm up, but I do have some songs that help my voice work on specific functions. So a favorite of mine for getting into, you know what? Let me think about this. Let me think about it. Okay, I like "Only the Good Die Young" or "No One But You," from Queen, and I like "Saint Honesty" by Sarah Bareilles. I like "Gravity" by Sarah Bareilles. Um, it's gonna vary from singer to singer, but I'm just thinking of songs that feel relatively easy for me to sing in a specific way, kinda, like, get my voice into a certain mode. That's a great question because I think it's really good for singers to collect those songs as like, when I wanna sing in this style, this song helps me do that. Joshua is saying, "How high can a mix go as a beginner? Ariana Grande can mix belt a G5, totally. Whereas The Weeknd can sing mix really high as well." So, Joshua, I can't really say for a beginner, because every singer's different. Some people naturally mix easier than others. Some people have more heavy chest voice sound. All I can really tell you, oh, can you put those songs on the chat? Yes, I can. Um, so those were Saint Honesty and Gravity by Sarah Bareilles. Um, No One But You, Queen. And then another one that I just thought of is Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. It's an Elton John song, but I'm thinking specifically of Yola's cover. It's quite rangy and it's nice. Um, okay. Anyways, Joshua, back to your question. All I can tell you is, kind of the average mix range for most singers. So the average mix range for lower voice singers would be E flat 4 to about A flat 4. Sometimes to the B flat, but of course there are instances of singers with higher voices, like think an operatic tenor or, a high tenor like Ben Platt. He's singing that B flat in Waving Through a Window in Dear Evan Hansen. Plenty of examples of tenors being able to sing this C5 with a really strong, you know, chesty mix or mix belt. Um, Singers like Ariana Grande, Demi Lovato, they are singing G's, sometimes even A's. The thing is, as chesty as that sounds, it it is still definitely a mix. Um, I mean, you mentioned that, you said mix belt. Um, I would say for a beginner, if you're a higher voice singer, if you can get this C5, that opens up a lot of songs for you. If you can stretch to the D5, it opens up even more songs for you. But I would say most singers without like those crazy voices, most singers are going to be transitioning to more of a head dominant sound around that E or F. Um, and yeah, I would say thinking about some of the singers that I work with, they can get for, like, low voices, they can get up to the A and sometimes the B flat, but it starts to take on more of a head voicey quality above that unless they have a high voice. So The Weeknd that you mentioned, Bruno Mars, Ariana Grande, these are singers with what I would say are pretty high tessituras, meaning their voices are comfortable and they like singing up high. So yeah, certainly not everybody is going to be mixed belting as high as they are. But that's totally fine, and that's also why we can change keys of songs to put them in a more comfy spot for our voice. Um, Vishal is saying, "I go directly into flageolet rather than head voice, around E4. What can I do?" So tightness, I don't like the sound of tightness. I would say, Vishal, have you sung through a straw at all? Um, the reason I say that can be helpful for you if you're going too light or singing with kind of some tension in that range is singing through the straw can help to keep your vocal folds lined up and vibrating together. So I might work around that. I might, do some slides, let's say from the A to the E. Trying to keep the feeling of underneath as you sing but you're singing on a lip trill or um yeah, really sliding around that range and seeing if you can keep a little bit of the strength and connection of the lower pitch as you go into the higher pitch. Um, I would definitely start with semi-occluded sounds. Another thing that helps singers who tend to lighten up are these bright or bratty sounds. So think na or nay, things like that. An NG slide can also be helpful. If you're going, mm, Joshua's asking, how can I fix nasality? I have decent breath support, but I still feel nasality. So, Joshua, number one, nasality is not a bad thing in and of itself. If you feel like your tone is excessively nasal, though, let me see if I have a quick little lesson on that just so that you can watch it later. But the things that we typically look at are the larynx position, the tongue position, and the soft palate, and also the mouth opening. Um, let's see if I've got something for you. I could have sworn maybe I haven't done this yet, like done a short lesson on nasality, but here's a longer lesson on fixing common issues with tone, and one of those common issues is nasality. Um, Vishal is saying, I don't feel any nasal sound even in head voice. So if you make an NG sound, it has no choice but to be nasal. So make an NG sound, like you said the word sing, and then up into head voice. That's all coming out of your nose. If you plug your nose, the sound disappears. So that is your nasal resonance. You can slide around on an NG and then move to an E. So, Joshua, the things that I would do quickly would be singing on syllables with an ma, 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 or ba, 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 ba. That can also help you to lift the soft palate up a little bit, that ba, ba sound. The other thing I would do is notice, is your tongue sitting pretty high in the back of your mouth like it does when you say an E? Feel it go, uh, Feel the back of your tongue lower and more space be created in the back of your mouth above your throat. Um, those are the kind of sounds that I would exercise on. And anytime we're correcting something, sometimes it's easier to go farther than our goal. Like, sometimes it's easier to go past the point of a normal sound and use slightly dopey sounds like a bo 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 bo, and then you dial back the exaggeration of that dopey sound. But that can also be helpful if you are really, really nasal. Try going in the way opposite direction to dopey and maybe a little bit yawny, and then dial back from there. All right, my friends, I really enjoyed this. I'd love to work through more songs with you. I know I didn't get through too much of Someone to Watch, but hopefully those steps were helpful and you can use them on any song that you're currently working on. I will see you next week and I'm looking forward to it. Bye.